just to pre-warn you, there are a couple of graphic slides, but we have tried to keep them to a minimum. So yeah, I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. So yeah, thank you so much for attending our talk today, which is Bringing Down a Giant, a look inside the fight to end pig farming. So I'm Claire, I'm the founder of Animal Justice Project, and this is Ayrton, our campaigns director. So Animal Justice Project is a registered company, and we also have a charity arm, the Animal Justice Project Trust. So I founded the organisation in December 2014, and together we work strategically towards a vision which is a society free from animal exploitation. So to achieve this vision, each campaign within AJP operates with a clear theory of change, integrating covert investigations, national media strategy, public mobilisation, strategic litigation, policy advocacy, corporate accountability, and consumer outreach. So today we're presenting Project Pig, not only as a case study, but as a replicable campaign model, so one that can be adapted to other farmed animals like chickens and cows. And our hope is that today's talk would encourage more people to challenge the pig industry. What we want to demonstrate is how sustained coordinated pressure can destabilise even the largest players within industrialised animal agriculture. Today's presentation will be just a snapshot of all of the actions that AJP carried out over the past year within the Project Pig campaign. So our theory of change strategies include political pressure and vegan advocacy. Our outputs include exposés, scientific reports, and legal action. And our outcomes include increased awareness and behaviour change, growing political pressure, and industry disruption. So since 2019, Animal Justice Project has focused on exposing animal agriculture through strategic undercover investigations. This work has reached millions of consumers through national media coverage, and our campaigns have produced some important and tangible outcomes. Animal farms have lost major stockists. Footage has led to successful prosecutions working alongside trading standards and the Food Standards Agency. Share prices have dropped, and in some cases, animal farming facilities have closed permanently. So these outcomes are not incidental, and our investigations serve not only to raise awareness in the press, but also to act as pressure tools.
Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome to Project Pig. So what does the pig industry currently look like? There are around 10 million pigs killed every year in the UK. There are 84 slaughterhouses that kill pigs, including 8 specialist abattoirs. Of these 84, there are 11 large slaughterhouses which each kill in excess of 100,000 pigs every year. So these are operated by Pilgrims, Cranswick, Carrow, Dumbia, and Dalehead Foods, and they account for approximately 92% of all the throughput. The breeding herd in the UK, as you can see from this graph, has remained relatively stable until recent years. In 2021, we saw a decline of around 20%. There are several reasons that accounted for this, which I'll soon cover. So Project Pig aims to target the entire pig industry by focusing on industry leaders like Cranswick Foods. It is not a single expose, it's a multi-year strategic campaign that has been running for almost 18 months. We integrate media, mass mobilisation, investigations, and corporate accountability. If you're planning a campaign, you must understand the infrastructure of the target. It means understanding how the system operates and before deciding where you apply the pressure. You should map the choke points. These are points where a small number of players control a large part of the flow. If you apply pressure there, the impact spreads across the entire industry. For example, major producers supply multiple supermarkets, large slaughterhouses killing pigs from many farms, certification schemes that provide legitimacy, and breeding companies that supply the genetic material. If campaigners target individual farms, the industry simply replaces them. But if a campaign targets structural choke points, the pressure then amplifies. So why are we targeting the pig industry and why is it vulnerable? Between 2020 and 2023, the UK pig industry experienced a major crisis. We saw severe supply chain issues, large-scale financial losses, emergency on-farm calls, and a significant herd contraction. This was through a combination of impacts, such as COVID, Brexit, and the war imposed on Ukraine, which impacted the feed prices. Currently, the breeding herd remains below pre-crisis levels. It is not yet recovered and is simply surviving at a reduced scale. However, despite the industry's vulnerabilities and its decline, pig meat consumption is actually starting to rise again, sadly, in the UK, according to the latest industry data. It is being marketed as a budget-friendly, affordable protein source, despite the clear links to negative health implications. Costs remain a clear buying focus for consumers, and it's a factor that we need to tackle. But it isn't all bad news. Importantly, meat consumption as a whole per person in the UK is in decline, and it's currently at its lowest levels since the 70s. Plant-based food sales are starting to bounce back, environmental scrutiny is intensifying, and animal welfare scandals are starting to erode the trust. But the number of animals does not always decline at the same rate. This number actually may increase despite a reduction in consumption because of consumers switching to smaller animals such as chickens, population growth, and also export markets increasing. But even a modest decline in demand, combined with reputational shocks, creates instability. And this is where we at Animal Justice Project are aiming to push pig farming back to. The industry today is smaller, less stable, and structurally weaker than 5 years ago, and that's crucial. So meet our key target, Cranswick. Cranswick is one of the UK's largest pig producers, has over 15,000 employees, 400 farms, and 3 abattoirs in Norfolk, Northern Ireland, and Preston. Has an annual revenue of £2.72 billion, and at any given time, it has nearly 1 million pigs being raised within its supply chain. Cranswick's largest slaughterhouse in Preston currently kills around 35,000 pigs every single week, but it's undergoing a £62 million expansion to increase that number to 50,000. Recent acquisitions by Cranswick include the purchase of JSR Genetics and a buyout of the largest supplier of pig meat to fish and chip shops in the UK, which was £32 million. Cranswick has also signed big contracts with supermarkets in the past 18 months. So regarding Cranswick, where do we apply our pressure? We apply pressure at 4 leverage points: retail, assurance, investors, and regulation. When a problem occurs at a Cranswick factory farm, large numbers of animals are impacted, major retailers are implicated because the supply chain, although it's complex, is a small number of big players. Media attention escalates quickly, and the scrutiny of regulation increases as failures appear systemic rather than being isolated cases. In other words, the bigger the system, the larger the consequences when it fails. So when you're selecting your target, a large size actually can be an advantage because shockwaves travel further. They supply many retailers and brands, so the story impacts several businesses in one go. They attract more media attention, which makes investigations more newsworthy. And they influence industry standards, reflecting systemic issues rather than adding to the bad apple rhetoric.
So in May 2025, we released the first of a series of undercover investigations inside Cranswick farms, all within the Lincolnshire area. Northmoor Farm is a Cranswick supplier housing 6,000 pigs at any one time. The footage was captured just over 2 weeks by an undercover investigator working for Animal Justice Project, who obtained a job inside the pig farm as a pig stock person. He wore hidden cameras while he carried out daily tasks like mucking out, moving pigs and piglets, feeding and watering the animals, and carrying out basic daily health checks. On the farm, he documented small and surplus piglets being smashed against concrete to kill them, using a method known as blunt force trauma, or piglet thumping, which you can see here. He documented untreated injuries, botched killings, sows beaten with metal bars, filthy and cramped conditions, and law breaking. So what happened next was mass media coverage across major national and regional press outlets, in print, on TV, online, and on the radio. Coverage included The Guardian, Reuters, ITV News, BBC News, The Times, The Mail Online, and also farming press. The farm manager himself, Andrew Pentecost, was even doorstepped by the Mail Online reporters. This exposure was due to a well-thought-out media strategy, structured with multiple well-timed press releases going out in succession. The first investigation succeeded in setting our narrative for the campaign against Cranswick Foods. So within the first 48 hours of the first media story going out, Cranswick's share price dropped around 8%. This wiped approximately 250 to 300 million from its market value. Reuters described this as Cranswick's largest single-day fall since March 2020. Major supermarkets suspended supply. Red Tractor suspended certification. Farm staff were dismissed and political discussion began. Cranswick responded by announcing that they'd be commissioning an independent veterinary-led review, which was later published in November 2025, and also a 6-point action plan. Media coverage triggered retail reactions, and retail reactions triggered investor security. Investor sensitivity forced corporate action, and the result was that Cranswick lost a lot of money in one day. And it sent a clear message across the entire pig industry that we are watching and they will be held accountable. So we'd advise NGOs to use reform narratives as leverage and as a means to test promises and highlight failures. Just 2 months later, we released 10 months of covert footage taken inside the nearby Cranswick-owned Summerby Top farm, where piglets from Northmoor Farm were sent to fatten up before slaughter. Our investigators documented injured pigs, cannibalism, sows being shot and dying slowly, injured pigs transported off farm, and Cranswick staff hitting pigs with balls, paddles, and their fists. We also highlighted in the national press that some of the key findings of our investigation were captured just 2 weeks after a Red Tractor audit, further exposing the shortcomings of industry assurance schemes and deepening public distrust into the pig farming industry. So retail suspensions followed again. Trust in Cranswick was further weakened amongst both retailers and consumers. Red Tractor again suspended its certification, and Cranswick experienced a second share price drop, this time wiping around 150 million off its market value. The industry response shifted, with Cranswick starting to describe our footage as historical. This is a common PR strategy that we at Animal Justice Project have come across, and that campaigners should be aware of when conducting long-term undercover investigation projects. Companies often attempt to undermine the relevance of the evidence by suggesting the footage is outdated rather than addressing the issues that it shows. Similar responses have also been received by the RSPCA, following our investigations on RSPCA-assured farms. where we have been accused of sitting on footage instead of reporting concerns immediately, which obviously isn't always possible. Red Tractor has also accused us of prioritising ideology, and the National Pig Association echoed the historical footage narrative. So repetition of investigations like this one on one company hinders the isolated incident defence, reframing animal cruelty as systemic, which is exactly what Animal Justice Project aims for. And journalists seem to enjoy covering follow-up stories. BBC News and the Mail Online repeatedly covered our Cranswick exposés and follow-up stories throughout 2025. Following on from the release of piglet thumping footage at Northmoor in May, on Monday the 28th of July, Cranswick announced a ban on piglet thumping at its 2025 AGM. To preempt this response, we'd already filmed on another Cranswick farm, Mere Farm, and deliberately had cameras rolling over the period that the AGM was due to take place. As a result, we captured on camera piglets, sorry for the graphic nature of the footage, we captured on camera piglets being thumped just days after the company's announcement. The heartbreaking footage showed 9 piglets killed by being slammed against concrete. One piglet gasped for 20 minutes. Farm staff went about their daily business around the animal and completely failed to check for signs of life. This was yet another example of the pig industry being completely unable to protect animals on its farms. We also documented a sow being beaten, kicked and stabbed with a shovel, piglets suffering necrosis and cannibalism, and a piglet that you can see here with a ruptured eyeball that was left for 2 days, at least. Mere Farm meant more bad press for Cranswick, and is a good example of our strategic thinking in terms of planning the field work to achieve maximum impact. So BBC News ran the headline, "Third Cranswick Pig Farm at the Centre of Abuse Claims." And the company argued, again, that the footage predated their reforms. Some of it did, but some of it didn't. The most topical part, the piglet thumping, occurred after the AGM announcement. Repeated contradictions like this weakens credibility, and credibility underpins retail contracts. Retail contracts, of course, underpin revenue. So when companies like Cranswick make promises, treat these as stress points that you can test publicly. So whilst this next farm wasn't a Cranswick one, our filming at Stockcroft Pigs in Herefordshire is a good example of taking an opportunity that was presented to us in order to strengthen our narrative. Following on from a whistleblower tip-off about pigs living in squalor at this RSPCA-assured farm, we sent our investigation team in to obtain further evidence. We filmed pigs belly deep in filth. We filmed pigs belly deep in filth, pigs dragging their hind legs, and animals not receiving much needed veterinary care. After we sent footage to the RSPCA, the charity visited the farm within 24 hours and gave it a clean bill of health. But shortly afterwards, Stockcroft cancelled their contract with the farm. We acted quickly on this one and ended up being able to show consumers that the failure of so-called high welfare assurance schemes in national media not long after the Cranswick exposés. Not just because they assured a horrible farm, but also because they completely failed to act when conditions were flagged to them. It was actually the pig industry itself which acted. This led to a second wave of media on our findings. We also moved quickly in terms of getting out a direct response to the RSPCA statement, thanks to Dr. Alice Brough, who's sitting in the audience, to ensure the final narrative was ours. Assurance schemes function to protect animal industries. They serve to reassure consumers that welfare standards are high, even when they barely exist. When credibility cracks, the impact can ripple across the entire industry.
From the outset, we integrated mobilisation tactics into Project Pig. We've had tens of thousands of signatures on petitions, 14,000 letters sent to MPs calling on them to take action, a debate called for in government following our investigation releases, and had almost 30 written questions tabled to Parliament in the last year. We've also disrupted Tesco's AGM, calling on them to drop Cranswick, hosted a national weekend of action for pigs with grassroots activists across the country, alongside We the Free, and objected planning applications to the expansions of abattoirs and farms. Mobilisation demonstrates to the press and to retailers that concern is widespread. You should build mobilisation tactics early into your campaign so that when the critical moments arise, you will be ready. In November 2025, Cranswick finally released the findings of its independent review. This review isn't an endpoint, it creates opportunities, because reviews create paper trails and public claims can be tested. The review included just 20 farms. It examined only 5% of their supply chain. 20 farms represents only a snapshot, and of course, when a vet visits, workers are not abusing pigs, and they do clean up their acts. The review concluded that all of the farms visited were compliant and that no poor handling was observed during those times, unsurprisingly. However, 44 recommendations were made, but many of these did lack clear timelines. Cranswick repeatedly emphasised that abuses were not representative of its supply chain. Compliance on a handful of days does not equal compliance across hundreds of farms that operate 24 hours a day. Interestingly, though, if all 44 recommendations are taken up and go ahead, we'll see some of the biggest changes to the pig industry that we've seen in recent years, given Cranswick's gigantic size. Our position, though, is simple. Minor reforms cannot fix a system built for speed, scale, and profit, nor one that exploits animals in the first place. So where do we currently stand with Project Pig? We're now preparing a major legal challenge against Cranswick alongside NGO Lawyers for Animals. The aim is to prosecute the company under the Animal Welfare Act 2006, and this is going to be a first of its kind against the industry by an NGO. Workers are often suspended or dismissed following our investigations, but responsibility should not stop there. Animal Justice Project's objective is to shift the accountability up the chain. We also have a separate prosecution in the works at the moment at another pig facility, but this is something that we cannot currently share details about. We are also right now working on a major short film project, which has been 12 months in the making already, and is going to be released later this year or early next year. And this is going to highlight systemic failures like never before. And this is a quick snapshot of myself and Aura from Animal Justice Project. But yeah, we can't show you anymore at the moment, I'm afraid. As well as repercussions in the courts, legal action can also trigger internal investigations, compliance audits, and staff retraining programs, all of which cost time and money. Legal risk can also concern the investors because it signals potential future litigation or regulatory scrutiny. So when it comes to investigations, they must be processed very, very carefully. Think about future legal action. Footage should be logged minute by minute. Assume it may be scrutinised by trading standards or actually in court itself. Our investigations can take many months to process so that the evidence is robust enough for journalists and the legal proceedings.
So in summary, it's important that we discuss ways in which others can replicate, not just celebrate. Through Project Pig, we have seen multiple retailer suspensions, major share price drops linked to abuse allegations, corporate actions including an independent review, assurance schemes' credibility damaged, expansion plans blocked, tens of thousands of people mobilised, political pressure directed at MPs and subsequent action in Parliament, as well as the start of a legal escalation. Project PIG demonstrates that when investigations, media strategy, public mobilisation, resistance planning and legal escalation are combined, even the largest industry actors can become vulnerable. The key is sequencing. Rather than releasing one expose and moving on, each stage should build pressure on the last, strategically escalating scrutiny over time. Every corporate claim should be treated as something that can be independently verified or challenged. When pressure combines in this way, even the giants begin to look fragile. Thank you from all of us at Animal Justice Project.